Drive Time on RTE Radio 1, sponsored by Zurich. We believe small actions can have great impact. Take a small action today. Speak to a financial broker about a Zurich pension.
Now, news has emerged that a Spanish bishop has resigned after he fell in love with a woman who writes satanic erotic novels. Father Xavier Novell left his position last month after the Catholic Church cited it was due to strictly personal reasons. Novell became Spain's youngest bishop when he was appointed in 2010 for the northeastern region of Catalonia. Well, for more on this, I'm joined by journalist Guy Hedgecoe, who's based in Madrid. Guy, you're very welcome to the programme. Father Novell, he resigned last month, isn't that right? And then afterwards the news broke of his relationship with the Spanish novelist Silvia Caballol.
Yes, that's right. As you said, his resignation was confirmed at the end of August. It was accepted by the Vatican, we're told back then. But it's only in the last few days that we've really heard details about his resignation and the possible reasons for it. And certainly it has been widely reported that he has started a relationship with this woman, Silvia Caballol, a local woman from Catalonia, a divorcee with 2 children, who is a psychologist, and she also happens to have written a couple of novels with a pretty steamy sexual content, with a certain amount of occult content as well. So there's been a tremendous amount of interest in this woman that Xavier Novell is having the relationship with, and his reasons for giving up this position, this very prestigious position as Bishop of Solsona.
Mm-hmm. And he was the youngest bishop, wasn't he, appointed in 2010. What has the reaction been from the Vatican then?
Well, all we know is that the Vatican accepted his resignation, and that we got the confirmation from the bishopric of Solsona, the town that he was bishop of, and they were very keen to say that this was for purely or strictly personal reasons. That's all we've heard from the local bishopric. But clearly, they're being inundated with questions. I spoke to the bishopric yesterday to try and get more from them, but they wouldn't give me any more information than that. But that's all we know at the moment in terms of their reaction and the reaction of the Vatican itself.
Is there any chance, I wonder, or that he wants to return to the altar, Father Novell, or that he could return to the altar? I mean, has the church in Spain said anything about that? Because we're hearing reports from media in Spain that there is some talk among the clergy there that this is not a problem of celibacy, they say, but of infestation. That is one quote. And they urged him to undergo an exorcism to free his troubled spirit, but he refused to do so.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. There's been an enormous amount of, a range of reactions, and we've heard some reactions from what I've seen anonymous church sources saying that he perhaps has been possessed, and that would explain why this has happened. I should point out that he is himself a trained exorcist. Since 2015, apparently he was able to carry out exorcisms. So that's something that he knows something about himself. But he has been a very controversial figure in general. On the one hand, he's been an outspoken supporter of Catalan independence, which is quite unusual for a senior figure in the church. But also, a lot of people have accused him of being a very hard-line bishop when he held the post. And we've heard from a local nun called Lucia Caram in the wake of this scandal, and she says the issue here is not him living with a woman, living with a divorcee. She says that he's having some kind of mental breakdown, that his behavior over recent months and over recent years has been increasingly erratic. So she says this is a mental issue on his part. And that a lot of people are focusing on the woman involved when they should be actually looking at his mental health.
Which is, I don't know, but it seems harsh, does it not? It's a difficult or emotionally tormenting time for him, it must be, who's given his life to God on the one hand, but falls in love with a woman who he's friendly with on the other. Aesthetically, they are a dashing couple, aren't they, Guy? And I just wonder what the media in Spain make of this. A psychologist, as you say, a published novelist, a political bishop, or a bishop with political views, and he wasn't behind the door in giving his views politically, and an exorcist. I mean, all the ingredients are there for quite some drama.
Yes, I mean, it's an extraordinary story, and as more and more details have emerged, obviously people have become more and more interested, because, I mean, you literally couldn't make this up. Obviously a bishop stepping down when they're just at age 52 is in itself an interesting story, but the fact of the relationship, the backstory as well, the politics you mentioned there, the fact that Xavier Novell as well, another issue here is that he has been identified as someone who has promoted and been involved in so-called homosexuality therapy, so trying to supposedly convert members of the LGBT community to heterosexuality. That has been extremely controversial. That makes him an even more sort of provocative figure for many people. Mm-hmm. The ingredients in this story just make it extraordinary in every way. And people here in Spain, both in the church and other people who are not in the church, have been following it extremely closely. And
I believe, Guy, it's raised the issue of celibacy within the church in Spain again.
Oh, yes, it has. I mean, I think you could say that in Spain, the church, like so many areas of public life, is fairly divided, sort of socially or politically. There is a very conservative line of the church here in Spain, and then there's a much more progressive line of the church here. And depending on who is in charge at the time here in Madrid, one line might be more dominant than the other. But certainly this particular story has raised that issue once again, as to whether clergy and bishops should be celibate or not. And I think inevitably it's going to trigger quite an intense debate. Okay.
On another matter before I let you go, Guy, I'd love to ask you about the COVID situation in Spain, where you have quite a significant proportion of students restricting their movements at home here since the return to school a week or so ago, or 2 weeks ago. I just wonder if there's a similar situation in Spain, or what the situation is like there.
Well, we are now at the end of, hopefully towards the end of what has been a fifth wave of COVID in Spain. It wasn't a particularly heavy wave, the last one, but the numbers are coming down. Restrictions have been lifted across the country, restrictions of different types over the last few weeks, whether it's curfews, nighttime activity, bars and restaurants allowing more and more people to gather. That extends also to academia, and so school children are going back to school just this week as we speak. And university students will be having a more normal academic term, certainly it seems, than they did last year. And so I think, relatively speaking, things are probably more relaxed than they are in Ireland. Okay. And people are just hoping that will continue.
Okay, Guy Hedgecoe in Madrid, thank you very much indeed for that. We're going to take a break, but then we'll be back for the homecoming in Cavan for the Solheim Cup Superstar.